I'm that girl and it's my 6 a.m. Hooray! But I wanted to be able to focus early today to be able to talk to you because I wanted to share with you my epiphanies from the experiences of channeling that draconian in. It was very interesting. I was starting to hear in private sessions how people were being focused and targeted on. I did not like that. I did not like hearing that, even though I had balance and neutral. It was upsetting to hear that certain people that I know were being targeted, while they're super protected. Now, if someone had said to me, "Oh, Joe, I've had X, Y, and Z happen to me," vulnerable victim to entities or whatever, my lazy assumption would have been like, raise your vibrations high enough. Like, you're untouchable. Like, what a low perspective to have your vulnerable victims to certain beings who are so low in vibrations and frequency. Like, seriously, come on now, let's like be clever about it. And that's how I used to imagine and think and process this and understand this sort of stuff, right? Like, I've asked a lot of times in sessions about said entities where people have come running to me, "Oh, there's ghosts, or there's something trying to get me, or we're cursed, or something, and it's never been what we've assumed, right? So I've learned that from sessions, right? But I've also learned from sessions to not assume you know everything. So there's that. And so it was really interesting when we sort of stumbled across this, and it was widespread. And I was talking to more and more people, and they're starting to share with me some full-on things, some really scary dreams, some really scary physical experiences, and quite a lot of other stuff. And it just kind of, it was just at this time when I was hearing myself and them in session say, everything is purposeful. The universe is teaching you something. Question everything. Don't just dismiss anything. Right. So I was trying to apply all of that, and to not assume anything, and actually consider it rather than dismissing it. Like, no, that's not possible. They're too high vibrational. They can be vulnerable victims to anything, which how I used to behave and think and process stuff. Absolutely, I did. Only because I know that we worry, and I know that we jump to really negative conclusions a lot of the time, and it's dear sweet Nana trying to, sit beside us as we are waking up, and we feel this other energy tense, and it freaks us out, or something. So, super purposeful. So yeah, it was kind of surprising. And also really interesting. It sort of seems like, if you've been following those conversations with Heaven on Earth, the work that we've been doing to help liberate the draconians, liberate the reptilians, that also were kind of play toys. They're referring to that draconian as their master. And now that they have got their sort of free will, and they're not serving a said master anymore, they are not being used as they were. And this has been really grateful for the reptilian collective. 100% it has been. And so they've released themselves, and they're growing and expanding and healing, and they're doing fantastic things. And when you're trying to be a rascal, and when you're trying to use warriors of reptilians to do your bidding, and to play a war that you're only creating with yourself, when suddenly your soldiers are not playing your games anymore, they're ready to evolve, you've got really sort of no other choices. And this is what it felt like with this draconian. He was called upon this really serious committee of many beings were there. He was entrapped. It was very interesting how they sort of tricked him, but he used his free will to do so. And so it's kind of like how our guides are trying to force us to do certain things that we don't really interested in doing. So they kind of, invite us into doing things and tempt us, knowing what they know about ourselves. So, they're doing the best they can. They're not, it's always to empower us. 100% it is to empower us. And they know exactly what we need to be guided for. And so sometimes they may have to, do these trick things. I know, as parents, we try to smuggle in as much vegetables as we can, to not fully disclose what good foods we're putting into our children, to sort of hide certain things. And I know that when we are having to give, when we used to have to give like our dogs some medicine, we'd always like wrap it in some goodness of like some peanut butter or something. So it's kind of like that, right? We know they have to take this medicine. We know that they have to have these good food choices. And our collectives knew that this reptilian needed to use his free will to accept that there is growth and opportunities and new experiences for him. And there was a huge difference that they were waiting for him to step into. They had tethered him to many vessels, either through full walkouts or something else. I've checked, it's not me, in case you're wondering. And I guess I wouldn't mind if I had to, but that's definitely not my life contract. So, I've checked, and you can check too with your sessions, using your interns and whoever you need to use to be able to channel your higher selves and subconsciouses to get your own truth and your own information. So there's that. So it was this choice he had while he was in front of this big council, to either see that this was gifts and opportunities for him to have these lifetimes in those bodies, to have those life experiences, regardless of how long or short those experiences would be. And instead of him being a slave to this planet and a victim and, going to fully sabotage and do a lot more menacing things while he is in those bodies, he chose to trust that this was a great lesson for him, that this is a great experience for him, and it's all very purposeful. And so instead of him being a victim to being forced into slave planet, kicking and screaming, and then becoming a resentful menace, he actually saw that there was some seriousness to and beauty in having these life experiences in these vessels. So he used his free will. I don't know what other choices he had, to be quite frank with you. It feels like this was it for him. This was like the end of the road. Like, I don't think they sort of said it's this or source, and you're going to be pulled out. So I don't quite know all of the consequences. It definitely felt like a really long conversation amongst them. It didn't feel time's an illusion. It's very, very warpy. But it did feel like there was much more that went on and into those conversations. We just got the highlights. So it was truly to help those who had been experiencing this energy coming in and trying to wreak havoc. And I didn't expect that it was going to be public, but it has been made public now, and purposeful. Some people have had some profound epiphanies of their own to reflect on their own inner work while listening to him, having to reflect on his own journey. So, I think most of us have great compassion for that soul now, really proud of that soul, choosing to step into those bodies with a better attitude. I think he was already tied into those bodies. I think he sort of found himself in a really stuck and vicarious position. So, really interesting, but the collectives were really pleased with him to see and get a sense of hope and to understand that these range of emotions are actually quite interesting and that it is a good experience. He made it very clear, didn't he, that he didn't want to be known for who he had been. And he just wanted to be seen as that mom or that dad or that school teacher or whatever, that the collective saw fit for him to have all of those experiences with. And so it's all super purposeful. And it's kind of a mind-blowing thing when you realize that these vehicles that we're living in can have these walk-out soul essences, walk-in soul essences, and share our imprinted lives and share, everything we've lived up to right now has been recorded, everything. And so if a soul essence comes in, they get that full recording. This is why I keep saying the truth will, the truth always comes out, because everything's recorded. Because what would be the point of coming down to these life experiences and having these lives and living these lives if it wasn't recorded? Because the recording of your life review is super significant for your soul's journey and others as well. And so it was great for him to sort of not look back at his interesting choices, but he wanted to come in and, he accepted it. And there's a huge difference between someone viewing the world as, a slave prison planet and they hate their lives and this is punishment and blah, 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 blah. Everything's doom and gloom and I'm a victim, versus, okay, I see that there is lessons here and there is something for me to experience and grow from. And wasn't that fantastic? It's like he realized that he hadn't really been a participator in these kind of lifestyles and lifetimes. And so this was all fascinating and new for him, but he did not want to be held accountable for his own sort of doing. But I think it would be impossible for him to not have to experience the sowing of the seeds and the fruition of some of the things he has created on this planet. I think we all have experienced that. For some reason, I thought that there was many, many, many draconians. And when I fell into it and when they were feeling into it, it just seemed like it was that one, which was very sort of confusing because, I sort of expected that there was a big gang of them, a big group. And it was strange that they sort of impressed upon me in that channeling yesterday that it was just the one. But as we know, it's like he was kind of in the ghost realm, but it is that potentially his higher self that is the biggest piece that's come. It's very confusing and we could explore it a lot more, but it was just about understanding what's been happening currently in our right now time. With all these people that were having these very interesting experiences. And the more I did sessions with them, the more it became very obvious that this was something that they were very protected from, but was getting my attention and it was sort of concerning me because it didn't sit well with me to know that, this soul was trying to create some exit points for people that I love. So it kind of became sort of serious because I know that we have to continue on with our life contracts. But, if someone's so obsessed and wanting to cause havoc and to cut people's life contracts short, well, it will never actually occur. It does affect their lives. They are aware of something going on and it is unsettling. So we can have the mature approach and know that they're very, we're very, 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 very protected. But in these flickers of brief moments, they can come in and sort of do just something that's just unsavory, right? So this is why it's so good to be able to raise our frequency vibrations and, and not sow those seeds of doubt or something. It's so significant for us to understand that the more light and the more high vibrational we are, the more we can share that. And it seems like this is a really important time to be able to really fully shine. And it doesn't seem like there is anything stopping us now from shining. There is, shouldn't be. We'll find out tomorrow. It was such a full-on experience to have that, those two channelings, because it's never been like that before, ever. And so this suggests to me this was a serious problem, and it feels like they've been trying to get his attention many other planets as well. And it hasn't kind of worked out well for them. So finally they figured out if they support the Draconians, if they supporting the Draconians, but if they're supporting the reptilians first, that means that the Draconian is really alone and, he didn't really have many other options. So, it was a very interesting journey to experience that with him. it really made me cry a lot. When I listened back to it again last night after the second channeling, where I got to hear them explain it, I realized there wasn't as much. You can hear as much of how much I was crying afterwards. It was a really emotional purging of his loneliness and his hurt, that he wasn't supported with his choices. He really was angry with his family, or his collectives, for not seeing how fantastic he was being really destructive. Like, they just didn't get it. That wasn't how they actually were. But he was loving his destruction and thought that that would have really impressed them. And it didn't. It kind of really pushed them away. That really pissed him off. And so then he villainized them. They're the bad guys. He's doing great things. He's powerful. This is impressive. Look at all the people afraid of him. And he really sort of got twisted. But as we know, there's lessons there, and he's playing that role. And I do believe that if he was too challenging and destructive, I do believe that our collectives have the power, and his collective certainly does, to pull him out of that experience. Harvested is what they probably would say. So they're also talking about the quickening now, and that's very interesting. So we still are waiting for all of these people to have these experiences, and while we know that some experiences to come are going to be very tragic and very hard and very challenging and very scary and confusing, this is sort of to trigger everyone's density into a very deep density, just to overcome it. Remember, when you go and dip into density, then you find other inner work that matches that range of density. So when you finally overcome the shock and find support in your communities after these big events are occurring, that's when you have profound healing and you can overcome that true emotional density. We can't overcome the density of this planet, but it's that extra density that we add onto ourselves with our emotional and physical traumas and perspectives. So, there's so much going on. And finally, the last thing I wanted to share was, we all know that planet is very dense. And if you're still expecting other people to lift up themselves out of that density to give you love and support, you're asking for quite a lot, because it's quite enough and it's quite challenging just to move up from this density a bit to be able to love yourselves. And so are we expecting from other people more than we can actually do for ourselves? And why is it that we still think that other people are more capable than us? Everyone's got the same density. We're all here together. And so look at the times in your lives where you maybe have expected other people to be able to be superheroes and overcome this density to be able to be something extra more. It's like this density is a magnet to us, and our whole bodies are stuck to that density. So to be really, really strong and move away from that magnet that completely attracts us to that density, and be able to do something above and beyond, that's incredibly challenging, but it's possible. And that's what we're all trying to do, is remove ourselves from that density and build upon more strength. And, we're purging a lot of the traumas and challenges along the way. If we did lots of our own inner work, we would have already emotionally released that trauma. The more we release the tension from our bodies, the easier these ascension symptoms are going to be, because we're not holding on to any density. And so it's super important what we are doing to our bodies, and how we're taking care of our bodies and how we're being responsible for our bodies, because it does impact. While we're not the bodies, our souls are merely just using these vehicles for these life experiences. You want the best premium fuel and input into your vehicles to get the best performance out of them. And so figure out what that is for you. it is important. It absolutely is important. And I know a lot of people think, oh, it's just a mindset. What you put into your bodies. If you choose to have, sugar eat your brains out and swallow your brains, then that's a choice, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So again, if you are having sugar, and you know what it does to you, right? Instead of having that sugar and be like, it's totally going to swell my brain and then I'm going to get depressed and it's going to be more pressure and stress on me, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's definitely probably going to be what's going to happen, right? And so if we know, okay, I'm going to have some sugar now. I know it's a choice. I know it's not a healthy choice, but I'm going to love this sugar and I'm going to enjoy it because I know that it tastes really good. And I know that instead of eating it and feeling guilty, which is going to be so counterproductive, I'm going to eat it and I'm going to celebrate this treat of this taste. And I'm going to drink heaps of water to be able to help with the anti-inflammation of the sugar and the reaction to my body. But can you see the difference? While it's always choices, if we are going to feel super guilty about it, it's going to just lower our vibrations so much more. So whatever you choose to do with your body, it's up to you, but make sure you honor all of your choices and, not trying to be, just trying to be reminding you to not go into fear or, add extra stresses onto your choices. Be fully responsible. But if you are having those, small snacks or treats, it's going to be okay, obviously, but really celebrate it, really enjoy it. Definitely do not bottom out your vibrations for a little snack or a big snack or whatever you're wanting to do. We've discussed this a lot about the water and the power of the water right now. And I definitely still want to remind you, it is still very much important. And, it can really help with so much because it is high vibrational. And especially when you put the intentions of it to be high vibrational, to heal, absolutely heal you and uplift you. It's very, very, very important. Again, being responsible for our bodies, because again, we're not victims and slaves to these lifetimes, are we? We chose to be here. And so once you are here and once you realize this is all your divine choices, let's be participants of it. Let's be as active as we can to being those light workers, to be empowering to others, to be empowering to ourselves. Why not? Okay, I'm pretty sure I said the interns are free, so enjoy that and have some fantastic days. And I hope this explained a little bit more from my experience with that draconian. We can feel very happy and proud of his choices because now he will be able to have more choices after this earth experience. And that's fantastic. All the collectives are needing everyone to evolve. And, everyone is included and welcome to do that. And of course, we don't have to. Of course, we can choose not to. But the consequences for those choices may not be something you really want. Or maybe it's something it is. So, it gets convoluted. But anyway, my friends, I love you. And whatever you're doing with your choices, enjoy them, empower yourself with them, love them, appreciate them, have gratitude for the opportunities that you can have with them, and just sparkle and jazz hands as much as you can.